everything is a baby step. So in terms of a few tips would be you ideally want to give yourself an hour a day. That's the goal. But trying to give yourself maybe 10 minutes in the morning, just to yourself, nobody else in your household, not on the phone, checking email, 10 minutes to yourself to just kind of be in that moment.
I'm Gordon De Silva, a business owner just like you, who has been in the trenches and come out the other side to own a business that delivers an incredible life and an incredible opportunity to help others. I've gone from working too hard, being stressed and unprepared for business life and the challenges it brings, to owning businesses that help me change clients' lives and gives me more freedom than I ever thought possible. And that never even existed as a daydream. I created the Talking Business with Gordon podcast to offer you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you are an ambitious business owner or just starting out on the journey, looking to create a business that creates an impact, but also a business that delivers the life you love, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Today we're talking to Rebecca Walensky. We're talking about all things stress. Now, stress can be the elephant in the room. We don't really like to admit we may have stress. There may be underlying stress. What are the signs of stress? How do you get rid of it? How do you reduce it? How do you have a relaxed time with family and business colleagues, inside business and outside business, with less stress? Let's get started. Series 1, Episode 4. So, hello everyone and welcome. This is Gordon and welcome you to another show. Today we have got a very special guest. Her name is Rebecca Walensky. Have I got that right, Rebecca?
You did, Gordon.
I'm glad. I'm so glad. I always have a little bit of a panic attack when I'm facing a little difficult name. And Rebecca is going to tell us about how we can reduce stress in our lives. And goodness me, based on my time today, I'm going to need this one, right? So, Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And you're from Detroit, right? And
I am. It's a little chilly out today in November.
Well, yeah, same in the UK. I think, well, in the UK, we're actually having a bit of a mild time right now, but it's good. It's good. And
Nice.
do you have like 6 cars in your drive because it's Motor City, Rebecca, or is it just a bicycle and you're very eco-friendly?
I do not. I only have my one vehicle, but I did grow up with a family who were car enthusiasts and loved to just wrench and work on cars and get little project vehicles going and things of that matter. It's not for me, but that is the family that I came from.
I get that, because it is, as a boy growing up, it was like cars were the thing, you know? And so being in a place like Detroit, you would imagine there'd be some choice.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way, right? Very good, very good. Rebecca, let's get into this, because you're, one of the things that I think we all have in our lives at some level, and sometimes it could be just below our awareness, is stress, right?
Oh, yes.
And so tell us a little bit about who your ideal customer is and how are they able to identify that they've got a need to reduce stress if they don't already know.
Absolutely. So really quick to give just a little bit of background of myself.
Oh, please.
So
Sorry.
I am a certified health coach and a registered yoga teacher, but I am also in the corporate world. I've been in corporate for 20 years now and in various different industries. So I have firsthand experience to know what being a busy professional can do to your body, do to your health, do to your mental health, and how there aren't always the instant triggers that we know. Like, when you have a headache, you feel that pain.
Sure.
But when you have that stress, so often we just think, oh, this is just the job. This is just, this just has to be done.
This is just the way life is sometimes, right?
Exactly. And we don't always recognize a lot of those triggers until they build up into those headaches, until they build up into that back pain or those hip pains. And all of that other stuff starts to kind of rise up, until we start to eventually, if we don't get it under control, we may get the panic attacks, and our body just at that point says, nope, you're done. You're taking a day off. You're taking
slow down or else, right?
Because you're not listening. But I know a study, and this is based on in America, not in the UK, but a study done by the Dr. Sears Wellness Institute found that 75% of Americans have moderate to high level of stress.
I'll be surprised if that wasn't the same across Western Europe, to be fair.
Right. I mean, it may be a little bit higher in America just because of the standard American diet is not the
Right.
healthiest, which definitely translates into a lot of other pressures. But it's one of those where when it comes to relieving that stress, you first have to recognize that you have it. So kind of getting out of that, this is just the normal, this is how life is supposed to be, this is how work is supposed to be as a busy professional, getting out of that mindset first and foremost to take care of yourself. And knowing, starting to recognize when you feel those things, when you feel the sympathetic nervous system take over with the fight, flight, or freeze, when you start to get into those, that's natural. That's over time with evolution. That's how our body helped us survive. But we haven't totally evolved from that tiger chasing us survival mode.
No.
And so
it'll take a few more thousand years, right?
I think so. But we can start working on recognizing when that's taking place and getting centered and realizing, okay, there isn't a tiger behind me. There's a deadline. It's not a tiger. It's not going to kill me. Starting to calm the mind down. And there's different ways that we can do this. And what I teach a lot of professionals, and that is my target audience, it's busy professionals, because it's what I know. It's what I still am.
Of course, yeah.
But it's what I teach is, it's a holistic approach with lifestyle changes, exercise, attitude changes, and nutrition. So combining all of those together to find ways to find that calmness, to make sure that you're fueling your body with nutrients that won't increase that fight or flight response, and they'll actually help calm you down a bit. And then to even change that mindset of, okay, this isn't a tiger.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because just before we came on today, because I've had one podcast interview already, I'm batching them as was recommended, and yours is the next one of a series now. So I had one early this morning. He was in Singapore. The rest of them are all in the US, and so I've got them lined up in the afternoons. And I thought I've got to get out for a walk and just chill out a bit, because the things you're talking about. Fortunately, I sort of recognize, I've been educated to understand that that's what it is, and we've got to do something about it. And I went for a walk. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful autumn day. And then I came back and I just had a big glass of water, and I just shut my eyes for 10 minutes, just breathing. And that, I think, helped ground me ready for this interview. But I think had I not had that background, I would have been listening to this thinking, stress me, and, battle through it, Gordon. Come on, you can do it. And it's not quite, it adjusts your thinking, doesn't it? Because when you're stressed, your mind doesn't work at the same level. Would that be fair to say? Is that something you found and agree with?
Absolutely. And that is one of the reasons that I really try to target busy professionals, because we want to be efficient. We want to be succeeding as much as we possibly can. And we are not at our full potential when we are stressed, and we are not there when we are not well. And if we continue to go down these paths of the high stress levels, it impacts our wellness. So we are not able to be on as quickly as we need to be, making these tough decisions, meeting these deadlines with those high levels. And what you did was fantastic too. It's some of the stuff that I absolutely tell everybody: we need more water, we need to take breaks, we need to move our bodies at least for 20 minutes a day, and taking breaks away from the computers, especially now when we're just staring at these computers 24/7. We really got to start stepping back and taking those breaks.
But it's, for a busy professional, it is sort of counterintuitive, because this is how I used to think. I don't know if if I'm common, but I used to think the more I do and more I tick off my to-do list, the less stressed I'd be. And what I subsequently experienced, I first learned it and then tried it out and then sort of improved on it, was that the more relaxed I was, the more I got done, because the time I was spending doing the work, I was 30, 40, 50% more efficient. But is that something common, or was me just being a bit of a weirdo?
No, that is absolutely spot on. And there's actually a lot of research on that. It's you actually, the more that you say no to things and put boundaries in place on what your own limitations are, the better your work on your other tasks is going to be. And the better you're going to feel about yourself, you're going to be able to sleep better, you're going to be able to just calm down a bit.
So this is perfect, because although I know it, and knowing is not the same as doing, I still went and booked. I didn't get my appointment setting app right. And so I got these 4 appointments really back to back. I was just thinking, oh my goodness, I didn't set that up right. And so, I appreciate that. It's not just because you know it, it's not always easy. You need some sort of triggers to, I think, help keep going. Would that be?
Nothing is perfect. It's all a work in progress. I'm a health coach and I still do this. So it's one of those where we
that's
all
good to know.
Yes,
that's good to know.
We all need to, give ourselves grace when those things happen. Don't beat ourselves up over it, because then that leads to more stress. It's one of those where this is how it is today. Tomorrow will be different.
Perfect. So let's get into a sort of a step-by-step process for how do you think the first step, would the first step be to build awareness first, and then be able to begin to start doing something about it? Or is there a different methodology to how you help professionals?
So I definitely have an individualized approach for most of my programs. One of the areas that I'm working on right now is actually an online meal prep course. And that's only because that causes a lot of stress for busy professionals. By the time you're done working in the evening, the last thing you want to worry about is, what am I going to eat, especially if I'm trying to be healthy. And so it's, trying to ease one area of stress in life. So that kind of goes into my next point, is just starting small, finding one area where you can begin to relieve that stress, whether it is through a lifestyle change, whether it is adding some more exercise, but coming at it from an individualized approach to see what that person specifically needs. Even when it comes down to eating, we are all built differently. We all need different requirements. So there isn't a one size fits all for everything. There are certain templates that you can use and things of that matter to start, but to really take things further, you need that individualized approach. And so one of my clients reached out to me because she was having horrible migraines, which I knew, but that's not why she reached out to me. She reached out to me because she wanted to lose weight. So we started talking about this, hearing the amount of stress that was taking place in her life, hearing about, the effects of these migraines and how they would just knock her out for days. So she couldn't do anything, which then increased the stress levels. It's trying to tackle that as the underlying condition, which a lot of people don't even understand. So just meeting and talking to hear first, okay, this is what you want. What else is going on? So we can start there.
So you sort of backtracked, you took the symptoms and went, let's go back and see what's happening. Is that something you have the luxury of every time, given, I don't know about Detroit, but in London, we're now back in lockdown too. Is that something you have the luxury of, or are you able to do these things online as well?
Absolutely. Most of it has all shifted to online. And even before, so, it was really hard to try to get everybody together just because as busy professionals, it's hard, especially if you're a working parent, trying to get any type of schedule and time for yourself, which is something I try to teach people how to fit that in. But in face-to-face time, it's next to impossible with everything going on. And it's one of those where, if anything, I hope that we can take from this whole pandemic is slowing down a bit, or at least trying to. I know some of us early on, and my day job has dips and valleys in terms of intensity. Early on, I was working way more than before the pandemic, but luckily I've gotten control of things. So it's one of those where online tends to be a little bit easier now.
Yeah, I think, and people are more used to it now, aren't they? Are they getting more used to it, would you say?
More used to it and more fatigued by it. So even sometimes instead of doing a video call, I will just do phone calls, because the good old fashioned phone calls, you can still get a lot of information out. You might not be getting the facial expressions and everything like that, but it's giving our eyes a break, and it's giving our brains a break from trying to catch up with everything. So it's a little bit easier too.
Yeah, and one of the things that we skipped over, I don't mean to take you off your thread, but one of the things that I think is really important when our listeners are listening to this is one of the things you said earlier on, which is the connection between the stress levels and how you think and how you're feeling and your physical health, right? It is something that they very easily miss, because there are so many studies. I don't know if you've seen these or you've sort of been part of them. There's so many studies that link stress and how you're thinking to issues you're having, like heart attacks, back problems.
Yes. There is a whole slew of lists. So when we are too stressed, your body starts producing an increased amount levels of cortisol, which is a hormone. We have lots of different hormones through our body. And when that shoots up to too high of levels, it suppresses your immune system. It causes digestive issues. It increases your blood pressure. It leads to sleep deprivation. It completely messes up your whole tension, headaches, migraines. And then when the cortisol levels go really high, they also start telling you, eat more carbs, eat more sugar, which then screws up other stuff in our body. So it's just this cycle. Exactly. Especially, I mean, if you'll notice, a lot of people have those sugar cravings in the middle of the day, like towards that middle afternoon, because it's been a hard, stressful day. And it's like, I just need that candy bar. I just need that chocolate fix. Well, then a spiral starts. So it's absolutely linked to when there is higher increased cortisol stress levels, that it does impact your wellness overall.
So Rebecca, given that there's so many benefits to be had by getting this right, what are a couple of small things? Because, if we've got a busy professional listening, and business owners are really, really busy, especially now trying to get everything lined up. If they're really busy, they feel they've got so much to do. What are some small steps they could take to begin to get on the ladder of, as you said, it's a work in progress, right? And it's never going to be perfect for a long time, because something's just out of your control.
Right.
What are some of the things they can do to get on that, to step towards that ladder of getting it, getting less stressed, making a bit more time, setting boundaries? Where do they start?
So everything is a baby step. So in terms of a few tips would be you ideally want to give yourself an hour a day. That's the goal. But trying to give yourself maybe 10 minutes in the morning, just to yourself, nobody else in your household, not on the phone, checking email, 10 minutes to yourself to just kind of be in that moment.
Yeah.
Let the mind see where it's going to go. Try to not go down the rabbit holes, but just see where it's going. Start with 10 minutes and build up to that. And that in itself can kind of lead towards a meditation. So not every meditation has to be just sitting there and trying to have your mind go blank. It's just being in the moment. So that's kind of a meditative practice to work towards. That would be
a very
one.
Forgiving method, isn't it? That's a very forgiving method. Yeah.
It is. Even if it's just, how you make your coffee. Be mindful of you making your coffee. Be mindful of taking that first sip of coffee. That starts helping your mind set up for that calmness to take into the day.
Right.
Another is to make sure you get enough sleep. And I know we've all heard this, but that is so, so important, because that's when your body is not only at rest, but it's rejuvenating itself overnight.
For sure.
And we need that. We need to calm those cortisol levels down, because we've all had this when, we stay up too late working on something, or just, not going to bed for various reasons, and then waking up early. We're not on our game as much.
No.
So definitely getting
10
more
minutes,
sleep.
10 minutes and getting some sleep. So have a good sleep. And then when you wake up, 10 minutes.
Yes. Just start with 10 minutes. Don't look at your phone the first thing you wake up either.
That is such a bad habit, isn't it? It is. And it's so easy. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and somebody said, I asked him to turn off his phone just while we were on the call, and he went into a mild panic. And I just thought that was, it's a sign of our times, though. Right. We just feel that we have to connect all the time. And
I know.
And when I talk to business owners, Rebecca, I say to them, they've got to put aside some time for their business. If they're going to develop their business, they've got to put some time, a bit like your 10 minutes, build 10 minutes, then go to 30 minutes, and then sort of settle on 90 minutes a day or something. And one of the things that I say to them is, look, give yourself the benefit that you'd give a client. When I'm talking to you now, for example, all my phones are off, all my bings and whirs and all turned off, because I want to give you the attention you deserve, right, like I do with any client or any interviewee. And so often the times, because they're doing this, they're having this thing of multitasking, thinking, oh, well, I can multitask. I'm a professional. I'm really sharp, on top of my game. Do you have any advice for people, some evidence that we can present to them? I mean, I believe it 100%, but do you have any, without any evidence, to be fair, I suppose, do you have any evidence that can help people stop multitasking so much as a process too?
So I don't know the specific studies off the top of my head, but I have read and listened to quite a few studies that actually say, and I say this as somebody who has for many years prided themselves on multitasking, we really can't multitask. No. Our brains cannot do it. While we think we're multitasking, the thing that we're always focused more so on one thing than the other.
Right.
So whatever we're not focused on, is not going to be as good as the one thing we are. And we're not going to be doing that one thing that's getting a little bit more focus as good, because we're being pulled in two different directions.
So does meditation help us get to the level where we can focus on one thing at a time?
I believe it helps with a lot of things. So one, it helps us get away from that tiger behind us, first and foremost. But the other thing that it does, it helps us start to become more aware of when our attention is being pulled. That's what it helps to do. So it's bringing more awareness than anything. And that's where we start with everything. That's when we can become aware that we are too stressed, that we need to slow down, that, this food doesn't make me feel well. Whether I love how it tastes, it's
true.
not making me feel well. I should probably, might want to start eating something else. It's that awareness that helps the road to a wellness and not stressless, but less stress journey in the first place.
So talk about some of the examples you've had where you've helped people, and what are the effects they've found from following this type of methodology that you teach and you help them do.
So one of the biggest success stories was having a client who started to see decreased levels in headaches. So that was huge.
That's a big plus. That is, pain is horrible, isn't it? And
it is.
Yeah. And when you can get rid of pain. So how long did that, what's a timer? Because if people go, well, I did meditation yesterday, I did my 10 minutes and I've still got stressed, right? So it takes a bit of time to practice these things. Would you say it takes a week, a month? How would you help people be realistic with their expectations?
So proven studies have shown it takes 90 days. So it takes 30 days to begin to start creating a habit, and 90 days for that habit to actually have effect on your body and your mind.
Right. So if they allow 3 months, but I presume they've got to follow a process.
Yes.
To do that. You can't just go, well, I did it 3 months ago, hasn't changed. They've got to do it every day or.
Right. And so one of the things that we can do is we can absolutely, with our phones that are attached to, they become another appendage practically, you can set timers for certain things, like here's my timer to take my 10 minutes. Here's my timer to drink more water even, here's my timer. I have to go for a walk right now, even if it's for 5 minutes, just to get up and move my body. So you can set timers to do that, and to not, again, give yourself grace. Like, you're going to have slip ups. You're going to forget things, Our weekend schedules are different than our weekday schedules, so it's going to fluctuate. To not just say, oh, I didn't do it, I'm done. So if you do miss it, just continue on the next time. It doesn't restart the clock all over, but it continues you down that path. And it definitely, I've seen improvements with so many different people, but it's also meeting you where your needs are at. So one client wanted to reduce their sugar intake. So this client was drinking Mountain Dew on a regular basis every day. And it's one where it's like, okay, that has a ton of chemicals in it, not just sugar. So knowing that I can't just say, stop Mountain Dew, drink water, start drinking something like a sweet tea. That has actual real sugar in it, no more chemicals, but it's weaning you down. And it took that person time, but that person doesn't even like Mountain Dew now. So it's one of those things where, eventually get that person down to more water, but it's still giving yourself, like, it doesn't have to be something drastic.
Brilliant. And that is, I really love your attitude to being a bit more forgiving and don't expect a straight line process. It's ups and downs. And if things don't go quite to plan, then it's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Reset the clock, right? Reset your thing and let's get going, because every bit compounds, doesn't it? It all helps itself. Absolutely.
And every business owner knows things do not always go as planned. So the same is going to be true for health and life.
For sure. I mean, I think what I've learned in my many years in life and business is that there are so many similarities between things you need to do for your health, things you need to do for your business, things you need to do for your fitness, there are so many things that are so similar in all of these disciplines that when you start proving to yourself that you can get one done, you can start knocking down the others as well. And I don't know if that's something you've experienced, but every time somebody talks to me, you talk to me about today about yoga and the tiger behind you and stuff like that. I'm just thinking, yeah, and that already works for business as well, because you think you've got to do this, but really, you could be focusing somewhere else. You're not focused on anything, so you don't get anything done properly. That's why your business is struggling. And there is just so many similarities, aren't they?
Yes, so many.
So let's come towards the end of this with, let's talk about you and how you discovered. How did you come to this realization? How did you get into this, and what are the benefits you've experienced? I call it our business is called Success Story Builder. We look at helping businesses build success stories, but it's nevertheless true in life, right? So tell us a little bit about your success story, where you got from where you were, and what was that like, and what does it look like now?
So I got into the health coaching because I was that overachiever who was working 60, 65 hours a week. I had a 1 hour commute each way. Goodness. So on the road quite a bit, and just nonstop having to do to achieve. And my health was awful. I was sick 3 to 5 times a year with bronchitis or upper respiratory infections, pretty much just on antibiotics all the time. I had what sounded like this horrible permanent hacking cough. And it just got to a point, I'm like, there has to be more to life than this. Like, I look at other people and they're not doing this. So why am I doing this? And I found functional medicine, and I found health coaching. And it's one of those where it changed my life. I found that I had a lot of food intolerances. And so once I stopped eating a lot of things that were not, my body couldn't digest and couldn't process, it started allowing me to not be sick as often. And then when I started realizing the more I slowed down, the better I felt, the more work I could get done in a better way. And, I was better to be around, to be perfectly honest. Anybody, your loved ones are the ones who usually take it the most. But even at work, I was a better boss because I was in a better mindset. Yeah. So it's definitely, my journey has helped me, and I needed it. I needed my journey. So it's one of those where I know so many other people need this as well. And I just want to help as many people as I can, so that way they can be the best versions of themselves.
Brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. I was actually watching, we're actually in the middle of watching Star Trek Discovery. And on yesterday's, we're on season 3. I don't know if anyone watches this or whoever's listening, but on season 3, there's the captain of the starship. He was in a situation where they'd just come across some pretty traumatic stuff, and he was trying to get his team together. And he did a couple of things. And what occurred to him was that the more stressed he was, the more stressed his team was going to be. And by reducing his stress and calming down and being able to take a different approach, his team came back together and they functioned better. And, it was all, and the fairy tale type ending. But I think that is something we miss in business, is that we don't often, realize that sometimes what we do, how we feel, carries forward into life. With kids as well, I presume. If you're highly stressed when you come home from work, your kids are going to feel that, aren't they? They're not going to feel as connected.
Oh yes, and then they will let you know. Not a good way.
Absolutely. So Rebecca, how do people get in touch with you to find out more about this amazing work you do and maybe learn more about you?
Yes, so there's quite a few ways. So you can go to the website, which is twistedlotuswellness.com. Wow. And actually, if you go to twistedlotuswellness.com/free-report, you can get 8 ways to stay balanced. Nice. So it's a great little cheat sheet. And so I can definitely email that to you too, Gordon, so you can put that
I'll put it in the show notes. Perfect.
Yes.
I really appreciate that. Thanks for helping. You went above and beyond, because sometimes in the last couple of interviews I've had, I've asked people, do they have anything they can offer our listeners? And they've gone, no. I may not ask that question straight away. Maybe I should do a bit more prep. But I haven't lined them all up.
No, there's lots of stuff, and there's more stuff on the website too. But you can also find me on Facebook and on Instagram at Twisted Lotus Wellness.
Brilliant. And we'll put all those links in the show notes if that's okay with you.
Definitely.
And the last thing I ask all my guests, is there anything I should have asked that I didn't ask? And if there was anything I missed, what would the question be and what would the answer be?
Oh, you're going to make me think about that. I don't know. You asked some really good questions. Maybe maybe just ask what their favorite tip is, or their favorite, what my favorite stress relieving tip is for me.
Oh, what's the best stress relieving tip for you? That's a really good one. Well done. You can tell you're really relaxed because you wouldn't have thought of that if you were stressed.
So for me, it's just finding what brings me joy. So honestly, right now, well, as much as I love doing yoga and everything like that, what brings me joy is watching something that I enjoy, with having, I like my LaCroix and I like my tea, and having my cats nearby. So just petting my cats and watching them play with each other while, I'm just relaxing a little bit. That's what brings me joy. So my thing would be to tell anybody, find what brings you joy to help you relieve your stress.
Brilliant. So there's a great tip. Spend your next 10 minutes thinking about what brings you joy, and then do more of that.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Rebecca, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest, so giving, so generous with your time and your information and your gift. Thank you very much, and I really look forward to connecting with you. I'm going to go and search you out and start following all the amazing tips that you give.
Great. Thanks, Gordon. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Rebecca. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Talking Business with Gordon podcast with Gordon De Silva. Next week, we're going to be starting a series on pricing for profit. So the first in the series is going to be talking about setting out the essentials on how to double your profits by using price. So if you're interested in doubling profits and you're interested in working less hard for more money, join me then. Thank you for listening to the Talking Business with Gordon podcast.